when I was driving to the track, like I was on the way to the track. I get it. I wasn't even watching the session. I wasn't watching live timing or anything. I was just driving. And then my mom actually texted me a video of her watching the coverage on Peacock. Like, well, this is crazy. and then I was obviously scouring the internet for clips, and it's like, wow, that's the worst thing that can happen. From a driver, when you have brakes fail, to have the brakes fail at the fastest point in the racetrack, I mean, that's literally a driver's ultimate nightmare. And that's what happened. You know what I mean? A brake failure, some sort of small part there, but everything has to work perfectly in race cars that are pushing the limits of speed and physical capability. So, to see that, that many flips violently was crazy. But then obviously seeing Simon get out, I'm like, okay, great. That's awesome. And then I kind of I keep on driving, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, when you get out like that, and like he did, it's
right.
and doing interviews, us as drivers, we think that's fine. You know what I mean? It's when they don't necessarily, if they take him away in that little hospital van, that's when you're like, okay, do I need to start texting people here and being like, hey, if you need someone? But he got out fine, right? But it does come down to the mind, right? Like we saw Jack Harvey have to miss a race because of a concussion. I believe that was last year.
Texas,
Yeah, Texas. So, the IndyCar safety does such a great job looking after us and actually knowing how much concussions can do to your mind, even later on in life, because of my dad. My dad has had too many concussions in his life. And so I've seen what they can do. And obviously he hit walls way back in the 80s when concussions were like a pillow or something, that was a branded T-shirt or something like that. They weren't really as diagnosed as they are now. So I've seen personally how that can affect you. So obviously IndyCar wants to keep us safe. But I had about 30 minutes left in my drive, I would say. I get a text from a couple different people, and they're like, "Are you here?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I mean, I will be."
Yeah, I'm on the way.
I'm on the way. And a lot of people were asking if I had my stuff, which I did not. I did not have my helmet, did not have my suit, did not have anything. My seat wasn't even in the ECR trailer because we're not there anymore. But sometimes teams keep other seats in their trailer depending on what happened. And mine, just didn't happen to be in the trailer this week because obviously it's still fresh. And I hadn't even asked them to keep it in the trailer. And oddly enough, on Friday, the day before this all went down, Friday I had actually asked my chief mechanic at ECR. I was like, "Hey man, do you mind putting the seat in in the trailer?" And they were going to after that weekend. So. I appreciate them for doing that, but I did get a text from Mike Shank then. Obviously, until you get that text from the team owner and say, hey, just come. He just said, come see us, and I said, all right, I'll be there in 10 minutes, and I proceeded to quicken my pace to the racetrack. And Ohio State Patrol are very aggressive. I would say anytime I'm driving in Ohio, those guys are always looking out for the speeding folks. Thankfully, I avoided all law enforcement, but I hastened my pace towards the racetrack. And I didn't have a parking pass either, so I just drove in.
Oh shit!
Parked way far away, and I actually ran. I ran from my car. I got to the track while the session was still going on, because you got to remember Simon's accident happened very early on in the practice session. Yeah. And I got to the track while the cars were still on track. So I made pretty good time. And I ran with my backpack. I ran in my shorts and t-shirt, because I didn't, obviously a lot goes through your head, right? You're like, well, there's qualifying today. You know what I mean? Maybe they're going to try to get ready for qualifying. I don't know how Simon is yet either. Obviously, you just have to be ready, and, hoping Simon's okay. Mainly because I didn't have any of my gear there, right? So I was trying to call my mother. My mother was already on. I called her while I was still on the way to the track, And I said, I need you to go get my stuff, and I need you to get my seat.
And then I need you to get here to Mid-Ohio.
And but I also called my friends, like I called my buddy Jeff Gordon, not the racing driver Jeff Gordon, but my friend Jeff Gordon, who has his own plane in Louisville. I said, Jeff, what do you think about flying yourself to Indy to pick up some racing gear and then dropping it off in Ohio? And he said, well, I would, but I'm in Moab, Utah. And I was like, okay. And I was like, do you have any friends? He said he looked at the weather, because the weather that day around Ohio was awful, like just terrible. He's like, no one's going to fly in there. I said, all right, looks like it has to be driven here. So my mom basically just gets on the road and goes to my house. I have to FaceTime her to get my, to point out which stuff that I need. And, I'm obviously in and out of the Mike Shank truck at this point, because they're trying to, prepare a backup car. My mom then has to go to the ECR race shop to get my seat and belts, which were all there. The ECR team had someone go to the shop and get that stuff ready for me, so I appreciate that from them. But yeah, it just started all kicking off. It's like one thing at a time. And again, this is all really just for preparation. Like we didn't know. Like I didn't know. Mike doesn't know.
The results for Simon weren't back yet. Yeah.
No,
so
no.
It was all this precaution.
Well, initially he gets checked out, right? And boom, that's personal. That's to them. I'm not going to go in and ask, hey, how's your health? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's stuff you keep personal. And it's still, that's a wreck that is going to make you hurt as well. So like, no one's going to be like, hey man, like, how do you feel for tomorrow? It's like, hey,
feeling
give it
great.
time.
Just rolled 9 times.
Yeah, no matter what, we already know that the final approval is not going to come until Sunday morning anyway, right? Like that's when we have to wait for. But that team is in a position to where they have to fight for every point for that car. They're trying to break into the top 22 in entry points. And so that car has to run on Sunday so they can get as many points as possible. So Mike was essentially just doing his due diligence, doing his job, and saying, hey, if we need something, let's have something, let's have an option ready.
Sure.
And so that's what we were doing.
Few funny visuals from all this that I'm just thinking about right now. One, you hauling ass from the fields out of Mid-Ohio down that long pathway, running towards the paddock, and I'm just imagining all these IndyCar fans being like, was that Conor just running by right there? Then Beth Bowles, the frantic FaceTime of, because I can just imagine like every mom, something's going to happen with the FaceTime. Like she's, it's going to be audio only first, and then she's going to it's like, hang out.
Not a big technology gal. Not a big technology gal. So I'm like, mother, I can't see anything. And she was like holding the phone against her hip. You know what I mean? It's like, no. Like, it's right there. And she's like, this one? No, not that one. That one. Oh, okay.
So, imagining that. And then imagining sweet little Beth Bowles hauling ass on 70 all the way out to Columbus. I just think of like a Beastie Boys Sabotage playing in the background, and she's just weaving in and out of traffic to do everything she can to get to Lexington, Ohio as quickly as she can. So a few pretty funny pictures there. All right, so that's going down. You're preparing. They're doing the due diligence, the precaution. I mean, so you said you didn't know officially until Sunday morning, right? It wasn't a Saturday night, hey, we're a go on Sunday. It was, you're going to bed on Saturday night. I mean, did you stay at Mid-Ohio there on Saturday night then?
Well, so yeah, I mean, the day progresses, right? And I got to give Mike a lot of credit here, because he wanted me to be as prepared as possible. So, I went into racing driver mode, right? Like we have, data there to look at, obviously from the weekend so far. We have, some video to look at. I was able to chat with Simon's engineer, Gary, who I know, obviously from driving at Andretti. There's a lot of Andretti integration there, obviously, because they're still in partnership with Andretti Autosport. So, got to link up with those guys, meet everyone there, and a lot of the guys on that team I've worked with before too. Great people. They were super welcoming. And because they're racers, right? They no matter what, they know that they got to go racing on Sunday. And they were getting ready, their spare car. But yeah, I just kind of went into work mode. I mean, for me, it was, if this opportunity does come about, how do we be as prepared as possible, and how do we just do the job of being the smartest possible driver in this scenario, right? Like it's going to be near impossible. It's hard, right? They've had a whole weekend, practice, qualifying, feel the tires, feel everything. And even if we got in on Sunday, it would be that warm-up goes by real fast. And,
right.
Going from Chevrolet to Honda as well, very, very different feeling there. A lot of different systems that you got to get used to, different steering wheels. Simon had all kinds of different controls that he likes. But again, it's not like we can reformat this steering wheel in a night. So I'm going to have to get used to that. His steering wheel's a little bigger. When I got into the car, when I eventually got my seat in the car, it didn't quite fit the same. So we had to make some adjustments there. And there was just a lot. I mean, I was at the track probably until like 8:30 p.m. or 8 p.m. On Saturday night with the team, just getting fitted. What suit am I going to wear? We had to figure stuff like this out just in case. We wanted to get a lot of that done Saturday, in case on Sunday, that we were going to be racing. And I went to watch qualifying on Elio's stand. They welcomed me in there. They were just trying to pay attention to how this team works, what's going on. And my mind, like hour by hour, is like, I just have no idea. But all you can do is be as ready as possible. And I text Simon, saying, "Hey man, like, are you good? Like, what's happening?" And he texts me later and he says, "I am feeling better. But, just got to wait till the morning." So I'm like, hey, all right, good for him. Thankfully, Mike got me a hotel room. So I did get a hotel room that night. Thank you to Mike Shank for providing me a room.
Nice.
So I was just going at it thinking, hey, in the morning, if we're going racing, we're going racing. My mom got my stuff there, my helmet, everything was ready. And, the team did a great job preparing everything. And, if it was going to be Simon, it was going to be Simon. And if it was going to be me, they were ready for both scenarios. So it's kind of crazy to have to do that. But sometimes our sport, that happens.
So you couldn't, what was the rules or the limits of what you could do to prepare? I know you said that you were on Elio's stand. I know that you were having a lot of meetings with engineers and you were taking in a lot of data. Like, is there any sort of setup where you can try to get like a quick sim in, or is there anything like that going on? Or is it literally just the first time that you get in the car is technically Sunday morning when you're going out for a warm up?
I mean, I was, when I got in on Sunday morning, like obviously Sunday morning, 7 a.m. is when Simon got his little checkup, right? Mm-hmm. So 7 a.m., Mike, I show up to the track, obviously 7:30, quite early. And Mike says, hey, you're in. And I said, all right, well, here we go.